It's Monday night, and you know what that means. Jersey First TV proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk, and I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit online magazine for 2020, 2021, as well as in 2022, as well as being the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media, and without a doubt, the people's choice and the people's voice. Yes, it's me, Fernando Uribe. Happy May, ladies and gentlemen. This, of course, my birthday month, so I'm very, very excited. And to all my fellow Taurians, of course, we have a lot to celebrate in the month of May. It's good to be me in 2023, that's for sure. Folks, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so right now, live on Facebook via StreamYard, also on the Jersey First YouTube page, in addition to Twitter, as well as on LinkedIn. Folks, I cannot say enough really about how important it is to share because you care. Yes, folks, make sure you like Jersey First TV on all of your social media platforms, as well as like Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. Don't forget to like me, of course, there. And, of course, follow me on Instagram and Twitter at the Fernando Zone, as well as Jersey First TV. Don't forget to subscribe to Jersey First TV on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts, whether it's SoundCloud or Spotify. Yes, download it and take Jersey First with you wherever you go. Maybe you're working out at the gym trying to get, shed some of those stubborn pounds before the summer. Maybe you're walking your dog, going to the vet. I don't know, maybe you're handing in late papers as the semester's winding down. Whatever it is you're doing, folks, I'm sure you have your smartphone or your tablet with you. Take Jersey First TV with you anywhere and anytime. And, folks, I cannot say enough how proud I am to be on the Jersey First team, the dream team of Garden State journalism. Yes, folks, I, along with my amazing teammates, Elizabeth Nader, the host of the Nader Narrative, brings you brand new episodes every Thursday via jerseyfirst.org/TV, as well as AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo, the hosts of Bridging the Gap. Brand new episodes air for them also on Thursdays, in addition to live episodes every Monday night with yours truly here on Jersey First TV. And, folks, before we get to my amazing guest in just a moment, I just want to give thanks to everybody because you know what? There seems to be a lot of haters in Garden State media, activists, whoever, that like to talk about my brand of award-winning journalism. And while they're over there chirping and being salty, I'm just, sitting by having my tea. And by the way, shout out to my Los Angeles Lakers moving on to the next round. Just like my Lakers, I'm winning here in 2023. And of course, folks, one of the things that really continues to make this show as unique as it is, okay, it's because of you, my loyal viewing audience, that once again, for the month of April, yes, folks, tremendous traffic, all organic, nothing boosted here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. So while you have some of these little Mickey Mouse journalists and Mickey Mouse activists with the little Mickey Mouse shows and their Mickey Mouse traffic, yeah, that's not the case here. We're not the same. And again, I owe it all to you, my amazing audience that tune in every single week. And again, make this show the success that it is. More on the greatness that is this program as we continue to redefine Garden State journalism and New Jersey media, of course. More on that later. Of course, folks, I'll also have a lot to say who's doing a disservice to us in Garden State media at the end of the show. You definitely want to stick around for that because it's always entertaining. It's always engaging, and it's always educational here on Jersey First TV. Folks, one of the things I like talking about on this program is not just politics, but issues that affect our communities, white, black, brown, whatever, men, women, okay? It's an issue that really stands out, and it's an issue that's still very pervasive in the state of New Jersey, and that is domestic violence. And joining me here tonight, a friend of the program, he's executive director of Safeway Out, one of the preeminent domestic violence awareness organizations in the state, and also a long-suffering member of Bill's Mafia. Folks, he is Nicholas Luciano joining us here on Real Talk. What's going on, Nicholas?
Couldn't resist throwing that in there about the Buffalo Bills. Huh?
Well, I mean, listen, I'm a long-suffering Cowboys fan, so I understand the suffering. I get it, bro. Listen, we're in this together, man. I'm suffering too. You know,
is it because we stole your draft pick?
Well, listen, it's been 27 years, man, and it doesn't seem like that drop's going to end anytime soon. So I'm still suffering, bro. So I feel you. I feel you, man. But Nicholas, how are you, man? How was your Easter?
My Easter was great. I just got back from being in Guam. I work for the military for my day job, and I was out there in the Pacific region training our military for possible contingencies.
Okay. All right. Well, I saw some of those great pictures, and certainly, Nicholas, a lot to cover here. Now, again, folks, for everyone at home that's not familiar with Safeway Out, you can check out their website at safewayout.org. We're an amazing nonprofit organization here in the state of New Jersey dedicated to helping victims of domestic violence, both men and women, and certainly being an incredible resource like they are. I don't think they get enough of a just due, and that's what we have their executive director on here tonight. Nicholas, what was the epiphany for you, for my audience that maybe is tuning in for the very first time, seeing you on the show? What was the epiphany for you to start Safeway Out?
So I never set out to do this. One day, I teach combatives and self-protection and counter surveillance and security awareness and all that stuff to our military as my day job. And I told my wife, well, I want to help out those who are being directly targeted, who are really actually being targeted and don't know any of this stuff. So I volunteered to teach self-defense at a women's shelter, and that's how it started. And then I realized while teaching them self-defense, yeah, this is all great, but some of their abusers are, 300 pounds. They have guns, knives, gangs, really violent individuals. And, self-defense is a tool. It's great and all. I think everybody should do it. However, that's not going to keep some of these families safe, given the threat that they're against. So I started a GoFundMe, and I bought do-it-yourself security measures, alarms, cameras, things like that, and I started passing them out at these classes. Next thing you know, director of Camden County Women's Center, Camden County Domestic Violence Shelter, asked me to go to a house, saying, "Hey, there's an imminent threat against this client's life. Can you go help her out? Put in some of those security measures that you have, and maybe just hang out there, keep her safe." And then at first, I was ignorant to everything. I'm like, "What do you mean keep her safe? Like, isn't that what the cops are supposed to do?" And that opened my eyes up to how the system works. Police, I came to the realization that cops can't do that. They don't have the manpower, the resources to just like sit on people's houses, and in some cases they won't do it. That's probably a whole nother show though, Fernando.
Sure.
But I think that was my epiphany. And then just little by little, I just started seeing this need for it. So it wasn't even that I set out to do it. It's just my phone kept ringing off the hook, and I just couldn't say no. Nick, I'm scared. This guy's going to kill me. Please help me. I got nothing. Like, hey, can you get a security system? Can you get a hotel for a week? Can you go to a shelter? And for, a lot of them were impoverished. They just didn't have the money, didn't have the funds. Safe houses were full, or they needed certain criteria to be met to do it. And the bureaucratic process that was required to go to a hotel or go to a safe house, wasn't helping these women out who, hey, we need to go to a hotel within the hour so that we could not get killed. That was when it occurred to me that the system can't, and in some cases won't, protect these women. I say women, but it's men too. We've had some men. They just won't, and they can't. The process, the whole system would have to collapse. There is no fixing it. I know that sounds overly cynical.
Sure.
They can't. The bureaucratic processes that they've created for themselves cannot be overcome. And I realized that a long time ago. They need decisive people. They need, people able to act and act fast to get these families to safety and to do things. And I just saw that huge gap. And so it wasn't even that I wanted to do it. It seemed that I had to do it.
Nicholas, I mean, again, I don't have any stats in front of me. I know I've looked at some data as well, as I'm sure you have as well. On a scale of 1 to 10, I mean, how would you say how serious does the problem of domestic violence remain in the state of New Jersey? I know there's been a lot of legislation passed in recent years. There's been this task force, that task force to address violence against women, against children, against adults in general. Any data lately that you've seen that maybe says, hey, listen, some of the legislation that's being passed in New Jersey is working. We're seeing a decline in incidents of domestic violence, or is it just really that it's not reported as accurately as it should be?
No, it's certainly not in decline. It's still about 40 to 50 deaths a year,
Jesus.
another 27,000 cases a year, give or take, that result in violence, physical violence, just in New Jersey. So we're talking almost one a week of an intimate partner being killed or an ex stalk being killed. And the articles are out there. They come out, and then within a few days, they're yesterday's news. No one talks about them. So it's more prevalent than it's ever been. Every safe house in all 21 counties right now is maxed out. And there's a lot now, and they're trying to put in hotels and whatnot.
Sure.
So the problem has only gotten worse. It's probably only continued to get worse. And all this, I'm not saying they haven't passed anything or tried to do anything. I just don't think it's working. Nothing seems to be working. And that's where we're at right now.
Folks, if you're just joining us right now, it's 6:14 on the East Coast, and my guest tonight live here on Jersey First TV is Executive Director of Safeway Out, one of the preeminent domestic violence awareness organizations in the state. You can check out their organization at safewayout.org, and their Executive Director, Nicholas Luciano, joins us here this evening. Nicholas, it's interesting because I know that, and we don't get too political when you come on this show. Obviously, I really like to address domestic violence issues with you, prevention, what needs to improve, and we'll get back to that in a moment. But listen, it's no secret for anyone that checks out our social media. I think it's a fair guess, Nicholas, that you and I are kind of on the same page ideologically. But this isn't an ideological thing that I'm going to discuss with you. But it just seems that in Trenton, there's this acquiescing to woke organizations when it comes to funding. And aside from the fact that the emperor and those in the leadership in the legislature spend like drunken sailors. Again, nothing against the brave women of the Navy, but I mean, they make it just egregious with the spending. It's really funny, though, how they like to itemize what they give in the budget in terms of grants and what organizations receive what funding. And I know we talked off the air about it. I really kind of want to give you the forum here about what doesn't sit well with you in terms of what's going on with Trenton and funding.
Yeah, I'm pissed off, Fernando, if I could say, be so bold and blunt.
Sure.
Really pissed off. I try not to mix the politics with the charity. I'm pretty big on that. But I'll give you an example. So we got approved last year for a community violence intervention grant. And I remember when we got approved for it, the grant handlers at the Attorney General's office, many, working for the AG that appointed under Murphy and all that, made comments and remarks saying, well, so your organization really isn't violence intervention, but it just, they gave off the aurora that we were, just given this grant, maybe because nobody else had really applied for it. I don't know. But I was like, what do you mean we're not violence intervention? We're literally trying to block violent offenders from, abusing the people that they said they're going to abuse, that there's a history of, people that they threatened. I don't know. That's exactly what we do. We've had cameras catch these guys, coming to the homes looking to slice them up or beat them. And, we use that to call the cops, and we've put them in hotels. And, if anything, I think we're stopping violence that way. So that comment is with the first one that came from the Attorney General's grant people. That gave me pause, number one. And then the amount of grief we got over the year during the grant. And don't get me wrong, I was very thankful for the grant that we received. But then the level of reporting and scrutiny, and then the miscommunication and the chaos that the grant that was something else. So when it came time to renew it, I thought, well, we got it last year. All right. So I think that we stand a good chance to get it again. We reapplied for it the same exact way we did the year before. And we even expanded our programs that we were going to do to help out the community, and not even just domestic violence, but anyone who has been threatened with violence. That includes, a 15-year-old kid who gets threatened at school that they're going to beat them up and, do whatever. We had these programs in place ready to go. So we reapplied for the grant, thinking like, yeah, we're in there, because we're doing exactly what we did last year, plus extra. So they do a scoring system, and we felt, we passed last year with the same exact reporting. We have a whole year where we helped out more clients, and then we have a goal of helping out more clients this year with the grant that we're hoping to get. So we felt pretty good about it. And then after they were supposed to award the grant in December, they didn't award it until April, just to give you an idea of how incompetent this government agency is.
Oh,
April.
you mean the Murphy administration and the Attorney General's office being incompetent? You're kidding. No
Yeah,
way. I'm shocked. I'm shocked.
Yeah, December 1st was supposed to be the award date. They didn't announce it until about a week and a half ago.
Well, Nicholas, they're too busy focusing on pronouns and other stuff that's more important, So.
Yeah,
Sorry, continue.
You're right. We got to get back to substance. That's the whole thing. Forget about the politics and the social. All right, let's get back to substance.
That's right.
Keeping people actually safe, stopping crime. That's what we got to start talking about. Keeping people safe. What keeps people safe? And so we were notified. First, they sent us the scoring sheet, which was significantly lower than the year before, which confused me. Like, why so low? Last year we scored this. This year we scored that. It was pretty much the same exact narrative that we turned in. We also even did extra. More programs, more people. Why they hit? It was the same people doing the grant scoring too, mind you. So I had my suspicions about why, they had scored us less. Then they said, well, you're ineligible to get the grant anyway. And I said, why? Well, there's one form you didn't turn in. It was a single sheet financial form. You didn't turn this in on time with your grant application. And that was an oversight on my part, which I take responsibility for. But I told them, I'm like, look, I'm sorry I didn't turn that in. I go, it was an oversight. It was a big giant package we had to turn in. We're talking hundreds of pages worth of stuff. But you had that. The sheet hasn't changed. It was the same. It was a sheet showing that we had that we were a 501c3. And I said, you had the same sheet that I would have turned in this year was the same one that you had from last year. So you had it on file already, the same sheet. It's not like there's an updated sheet every year. You already had it. I go, so you're telling me that you just couldn't tell me, right from the, hey, you didn't turn in the sheet. Can we please get it or use the one that you already have? And I know a lot of people saying, well, that's the government. You got to do what they say. That's the grant. That's the grant process. You didn't turn it in. Like, okay, fine, fair enough. But I had to tell multiple families, hey, I got to take you out of this hotel. We just got our funding pulled. And the reason why was because that was told to me was because we didn't turn in a one-page form that the grant application people already had on file. And this is my problem, Fernando, is that we've become so bureaucratic, so robotic as a society, as a government. That we can't think outside the box a little bit, that we can adapt and improvise just a little bit and act like we're not robots. We can't act like human beings just for a minute. Hey, you know what? This group has a great mission that we've seen. I have turned in the narrative about all the clients we've helped and saved lives. And you're going to deny that. You're going to deny that over a sheet of paper that wasn't turned in. Have we really gotten there? Is it this bad? Have we gotten that bureaucratic and robotic and soulless as a society, where we can't just say, hey, look, you're doing great work. You forgot this sheet of paper. Can you please turn it in right now? I'm not going to ever say that that's okay. Oh yeah, well, I should have turned it in. No, I don't want to. I'll be careful next time, but I don't ever want to get to the point where I excuse that, robotic, bureaucratic way of thinking.
No, I agree with you. And again, obviously, I'll say this openly. Obviously, I know I did some research online. I know we talked off the air, looking at apparently again that the emperor allocated $15 million in violence intervention and prevention grants. Obviously, part of that you're looking to get, certainly some grant money out of. And I look at some of these organizations here. Obviously, some of them I know personally. The Anti-Violence Coalition of Hudson County, that would make sense. But sometimes I look at some of these names here, like Salvation and Social Justice. I would bet one of my Cowboys jerseys. It's one of these woke organizations that just, I don't know, like probably get triggered by statues or something, or like being, not being called the right pronoun and they have a meltdown. I don't know. It just seems like some of these organizations here, I get it. Tri-County Community Action Agency, that makes sense. The Urban League of Essex County, I know it personally, that makes sense. I have an idea. The Center for Family Services, that seems, on face value to make sense. Life Worth Living, the United Advocacy Group. Some of these organizations, I got to tell you, I'm sure if I do my due diligence here, I'm going to find some nonsense that these organizations are founded on, but they love that grant money in Trenton, don't they?
Yeah. And I don't want to bash other organizations that are really trying to do work, because you can almost make the argument that all of it, in some way, shape, or form, okay, but if you look at like some of the work, it is very woke, it is very social justice-y.
Oh, it's awful.
And most of those organizations have that element of that. The New Jersey Coalition to End Domestic Violence, the title itself tells you, oh, well, that makes sense. They get this funding, they get that funding.
Sure.
But if you ever look at their website and their social media, all they ever talk about is, white supremacy, colonialism, sexism, and it's like, stay in your lane. That's.
Yeah, I mean, Nicholas, listen, there's plenty of woke fools in New Jersey, especially down by you in South Jersey. I roast a few every so often. I'm actually going to roast one later on in the program, but it's crazy how that just becomes overwhelming when that's not the message. The message is to prevent violence.
Yes, exactly. That is where that I don't know why that became so controversial. I mean, it never was. The only thing that was controversial about it was how do we go about doing it, but it was never about defunding the police and reimagining justice.
Yeah.
And I believe that's actually one of the groups that got the grant, was Reimagining Justice. And
like domestic violence victims are the last people I think that ever want to hear the words defund the police. Okay. I mean, let's be honest.
They don't. So that, that's again, my suspicions that that's where they wanted the money to go. And even in the grant language was kind of, just not so subtly talking about that gun violence prevention.
Sure.
And not, hey, how, like security. It was more about, hey, fifth grade kids writing about how guns are bad. That's violence intervention in their heads. Right. And those are the organizations that they gave that money to. So we've been criticized by some of these more woke organizations, including the New Jersey Coalition to End Domestic Violence, for, oh, well, by giving a woman pepper spray, you're telling her that she could have prevented this attack if she was, being more protective of herself. I mean, I've actually heard these things. And I'm like, no, I'm not saying that at all. Where are you even getting that from? First thing we tell the women, like, it's not your fault, now, we got to work on hoping this doesn't happen again. I don't, why is this controversial for me? I don't understand. This was 10 years ago. This was not a thing. Hey, look, I'm trying to keep you safe. I'm trying to keep, these women safe. The clients don't say that. Why is the New Jersey Coalition to End Domestic Violence, posting about white supremacy and colonialism, and then trying to, why are they talking about that? Why are they talking about me victim blaming because I want to teach them how to keep their houses safe? When you put a woman up in a shelter, are you not doing the same thing? You're providing safety and security. Why can't they just live in their own homes if we're not victim blaming? So I don't know why that's controversial. I don't know why that's considered political. But somehow that has been made political, just like everything else in this country.
I agree. And folks, it's 6:27 here on the East Coast. Joining me live here this evening is the Executive Director of Safeway Out, one of the preeminent domestic violence organizations here in the state of New Jersey. He is Nicholas Luciano, joining us here on Real Talk. As a matter of fact, Nicholas, I'm going to note that. I'm going to reach out to them and see if I can get their Executive Director on this show to sort of talk to them and find out exactly, what's going on here in the sense of, what message are you conveying as an organization compared to others. But let's get back to that in terms of domestic violence. And obviously, there's a lot of literature out there, Nicholas. We have grown up in this era of the internet, social media, where there is no shortage of PSAs, public service announcements, TikTok videos, YouTube channels, podcasts, journalists that write columns that continue to really amplify and really emphasize the serious problem that still is domestic violence. I would just argue that I think we just live in this sort of society here, Nicholas, not just in New Jersey, but around the country, where there's still a big divide between the genders, right? Between men and women, two genders, folks. Again, I passed high school biology, by the way. So did Nicholas. Okay, there seems to still be this humongous divide about socialization and what's acceptable, whether it's during dating and marriage, and it could be a cultural dynamic we're not aware of, or a sociological one, a financial one. And again, we're living in this climate where a lot of men might say, well, you know what, if you're a guy, you're already behind the 8 ball, because as soon as a woman makes an accusation of anything, you're already blackballed. You could lose your job. You could, a plethora of things could happen. And then, of course, we're also living in this climate where I would argue of toxic femininity that's still running rampant. Now, again, the two things are not related, but I think that these are two dynamics that are still very present for us. And I think there are things that aren't talked about enough. And I really want to get your sense of, what do you think is probably the most overwhelming factor when it comes to examining domestic violence? Is it a cultural issue, financial, sociological? What would you say?
Well, I don't buy, people think like, oh, it's more out in the open. That's what people are reporting it more. Years ago, it was swept under the rug. I don't actually believe that. You ever talk to some of these older folks, a lot of people say the same thing. Like, yeah, if we knew somebody was abusing their wife, we would intervene. We would step in. I've heard a lot of that. It was always here. It was always present. People, especially these older guys, they're old school. They weren't sitting around talking about how they all beat their wives.
Sure.
I think if that were to come out, I think they would be shunned in a lot of groups, so I really don't buy the narrative that it was always really widespread and only now it's just out in the open. I think it has exploded the past 10 to 20 years. I don't know exactly when, and I'm not an expert at this.
Sure.
That's just my belief, from just a lot of the older folks that I know and I talk to. Nobody was ever okay with domestic violence. So why is it all of a sudden it isn't just in a relationship violence. It's when a woman leaves or the man leaves and there's violence afterwards. The stalking, the harassing, the breaking into the homes, if I can't have you, no one will, type stuff. And, the only thing what I really believe is I just think people, men in general, okay, we're brought up to just not able to handle adversity. A lot of younger men. All right. When I say younger men, I say, my generation, younger, 40s, 30s, 20s, they just can't handle rejection. They don't know how to handle rejection, loss. Okay. So we're failing them at a young age. People talk like, oh, this guy, is you really going to start talking about participation trophies? I was like, well, let's look at the facts. All right. Older generations were able to handle sacrifice and adversity significantly better than this one. I really believe that.
Sure. That's fair. So
yeah. I do. And I'm not saying every man. I know you're not like that. I know I'm not like that. All right. But I do believe as a whole, a lot of men and women cannot, I'm so special. Everybody look at me. I'm special. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me. Then all of a sudden you get confronted with somebody who says you're not special. You don't like that. And this is somebody you have strong feelings for. You feel entitled, and I think I don't know how to handle my emotions. I can't deal with my emotions. So I'm going to turn to violence. Because I've never been taught I've never been told those character building words. You lost, Nick. How do you do better?
Yeah, no, Nicholas, you're right about that. And I also want to add this as well. I think, folks, we just lost Nicholas real quick here. Okay, Nicholas is back. Nicholas, you there?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, cool. No, it's okay. No, I also want to ask you, you brought up a good point about, again, this cultural divide about socialization between men and women. And, it's something I talk about it with my buddies all the time and my female best friend as well, where I think even relationships have become harder, right? Social media has made dating more difficult. The idea of being able to agree to disagree or have some volatility. I've had the misfortune of dating a lot of toxic women in my adult life, mostly Latinas, which again, I can say this out loud because a lot of them are toxic, and they know how to push your buttons. They know how to gaslight. And I think as I've gotten older, I've learned to have a lot more self-control and walk away, not engage in arguing. And because I think that unfortunately, these situations become volatile in dating, and then turns into marriage. And I think as we get older, we learn to sort of walk away from that. I've talked to buddies of mine and say, and they've said to me, we were just hanging out recently. We're like, I don't know how you dated so and so, so and so, and so and so in the last decade. And this girl was toxic. She was overly hysterical, passive aggressive, bipolar. Like, how did you do it, man? And I just said I had a lot of patience, and I learned from my dad. My parents this week celebrate 50 years of marriage, and they're like one of the most loving couples that I know. And my dad told me from a very young age, hey, listen, respect women, even when they annoy you, which they tend to do anyway because that's their nature. Okay, you respect them. If something's going to get violent or potentially violent or volatile, walk away. Don't engage. If a woman can't hold her liquor, which tends to be the case for the most part in many instances, okay, walk away from that. Don't engage them. The last thing you need, especially as you're climbing up the social and financial ladder, is to get arrested, to have a cop come to your house and say, hey, what are you doing? Do you see bruise marks on someone? We don't need that aggravation and grief. And I think as we get older, Nicholas, as men, I think we've learned, A, how to deal with toxic femininity, and also, two, how to just have the ability to walk away and not engage. Because you know what? If we let our egos manipulate it, not everyone's going to have self-control. And that's what ended up happening with a lot of these incidents where you see men striking women, and it gets ugly and sometimes lethal.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just think everything just escalates now. Everything. Yeah. Years ago, things that just got, whatever, agree to disagree, like you said, everything escalates. And there's like no stopping it, no matter what. And I don't think that's just domestic violence. I think it's everywhere. And I think that's what we're seeing. And I think it's a bigger problem with society. A fender bender 30 years ago maybe turns into a shouting match at the most. A fender bender now, the same fender bender with the same type of people, now could turn into a deadly incident.
Yeah.
People arguing in the grocery store. There was one in North Carolina not that long ago. Somebody forgot to put a shopping cart back. Led to an argument. One girl shoots the other girl.
Yeah.
It was a mom right in front of her daughter. I believe these are related. I do. I believe these are all related. I don't think one is compartmentalized from the other. I think, the increase in shootings that you see, there was just one with the illegal immigrant down in Texas who didn't like the woman telling him about, hey, I wish you wouldn't shoot your gun so late. You're waking up my kids. He can't handle that. That's too much for him. He sees that as a threat. He escalates it. That's all we do, Fernando. We escalate. Everything gets escalated. Everything's a challenge to you. Somebody, you can't say anything to somebody anymore. You can't say with women, men, hey, I don't like that. It escalates. It escalates. You see it in couples, fighting. Like, hey, I really wish you wouldn't do that. Oh, what the fuck? Excuse me.
That's
Everything just gets escalated, and I believe it's related to everything. A guy gets rejected, okay, he just can't leave it alone. He can't say, okay, I got rejected by this girl, on to the next girl, or maybe I should need to improve myself. No, it's all women are bad. I hate women. I'm going to become a shooter. A woman gets challenged saying, hey, you're X, Y, and Z, whatever. Maybe the problem is you. She lashes out. She gets angry. I picked my kid up today, just a couple of hours ago. Two moms almost came to blows in the middle of the thing. They were arguing over the dumbest thing. They had to get separated from one another. Nobody can be challenged anymore because it just gets escalated. And I believe it's all related.
Well, I'll say this, God rest Jerry Springer. I'm sure he's watching from above. That watched that incident today and said, hey, they probably watched my show. Damn, I was effective. Yeah. No. But in all seriousness, though, Nick, before I let you go, certainly for the rest of 2023, obviously, it's unfortunate that grant wasn't provided by the emperor and the administration. What are you looking to do for the rest of 2023 in terms of events, fundraising? How can we help here on this show to help raise awareness for your organization?
Well, if you could follow us on Facebook, Safeway Out and NJ Nonprofit, Instagram, Safeway Out, NJ Nonprofit. We post a lot of our events there. Our big one is October 21st this year down in Cherry Hill, Israeli Krav Maga. Great, great partners that we have. They do a big fundraiser for us every year. We were supposed to have a fundraiser last week. A bunch of bands were going to put on a show for us. It was going to be run by two independent promoters that just like our mission. I was in communication with them about it, obviously, and I was going to go to the event. So it wasn't a Safe Way Out fundraiser, but it was, for us. So we're going to try to do events like that. Unfortunately, that one got postponed. But if you follow our website, you go on our website, you follow us on social media, we'll have these events that you can go to, and you can always donate. And I'll be honest, I'm not even 100% sure I want government help at this point, which is with the reporting instructions that they want. I don't want to turn into a bureaucratic process. I don't want a woman scared to death, or a man, hey, I'm afraid I'm going to die tonight. Can you help me? Or, oh, hang on, let's just fill out these forms, submit this, do this. I don't want to ever turn into that organization. And sometimes I feel that if I work with a government agency too close, that could inadvertently happen. I don't want that. I want to avoid that. So the more private donations we get, the better, and the more efficient I believe that we are.
Well, Nicholas, I'll say this. You have an ally here on Real Talk with Fernando Uribe via Jersey First TV. I'm going to make it a point to, promote as much as I can for you, and anything I can do to help your incredible organization, I'll do that, because I really believe in your mission, and I believe in what you're doing. You're good people. Real quick here before I let you go, I always got to ask you, man, draft went this past weekend. I'm very happy with my draft. Last year, big disappointment again for both our NFL teams. We're both experiencing a serious drought. Is the window closing for your Buffalo Bills? Josh Allen, that's a good roster. It just seems like they put up a lot of points defensively. They're a little bit of a liability. They don't make stops when they need to in December and in January, as we've seen. Same thing with my team. Is the window closing for the Bills right now with Josh Allen in that roster?
I believe it is. So they better get there, because all the other team, the Bengals and Chiefs aren't going anywhere. Even the Jets and Dolphins are on the rise now. So they need to really, really change with it. They had a defense that relied on the other offense making mistakes. That was which works great against the Commanders and the Texans. And,
Sure.
that doesn't work against Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow. They're not going to make mistakes. So, they need playmakers on defense. They need coaches with killer instincts. They need, they need to be able to change things up and play more consistent.
Sure. And by the way, I did see on Bleacher Report and a few other websites that brand new stadium coming up in Buffalo, I think 2026 or 2027. Yeah. I'll tell you, I've been up to Orchard Park wearing Cowboy stuff. It's been dangerous. Okay. So that building looks like they've done as much as they can to it. I think for one of the prouder franchises, right? And I would argue one of the most loyal fan bases in the country. I think if anyone deserves a new ballpark, I would say definitely it's the Buffalo Bills. So, hey, congratulations to that. And Nicholas, I want to thank you for your time here tonight, because you're always a gentleman to come on. You're very busy. I always, thank you for your service, what you do, and certainly what you're doing with Safeway Out. By the way, folks, once again, safewayout.org. Make sure you like them on Facebook, follow them on Instagram and Twitter. Donate there. Again, your donations are safe and secure online, as well as tax deductible. You're always a gentleman. I'm glad you're a fan of this show. I'll give you the last word here tonight.
No, just thank you again for your support. All right. You're a solid human being. Okay. You're about substance. And I always appreciate that. It's not about feel. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, a lot of people on the left and all the woke fools and woke social justice clowns in New Jersey will say differently to you, Nicholas. But again, I appreciate the kind words from you, and you're always a gentleman. Again, last word for you.
Well, look, I talk about substance a lot. Be about substance. Be about actual change. Okay, these folks that think posting comments on social media, they're some kind of activist. All right, you're not. Are you? Our fundraiser just got postponed because some girl made up a story about a band saying they said something about Nazis, and it turned out to not be true. So this wannabe social justice warrior did more damage for women's safety and security than an abuser. Okay, because a lot of women were impacted because we're not getting that funds.
Terrible.
So we've gotten to the point as a society where, again, we're not about substance. Everything's about how I look and pronouns and defund the police and these 3-word sayings, They don't actually do anything, you know. They don't actually physically do anything, but they'll make a comment on social media, saying this, that, or the other thing, thinking that they're so virtuous. Then you got someone like you, who disagrees with them politically, who they think is a horrible human being, who's done more to help my organization than most people. And I know that you help all these other organizations. I see what you post and I see what you do and who you promote and who you help. You're right. You're a very genuine individual who cares about others. So, I'll make the argument you've done more for women, and more for the oppressed, more for the people who need help, the most vulnerable. You've done more for them than any of these social justice warriors, but because they use these 3-word, buzz phrases that are catchphrases, they post some meme about, the handmaiden tale or something like that, that there's some kind of virtuous group and helping out these groups, but we ignore the contributions of someone like you. So I just tell everybody, like, just be full of substance, actually go out and help people.
Folks, again, Nicholas Luciano dropping truth here tonight. I love it. I'm actually blushing a little bit, but Nicholas, God bless you, man. Keep up the good work. Happy Father's Day in advance to you. And again, have a great rest of your spring and summer. Hopefully we'll get some summer weather soon, for God's sakes. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Have a great night.
Thank you, Fernando.
Have a good one, brother.
Bye.
Folks, again, great episode there with Nicholas Luciano, the executive director of Safeway Out, one of the more preeminent domestic violence organizations in the state of New Jersey, obviously in the tri-state area. Check them out once again, safewayout.org. Folks, before we call it a night, again, I have to just tell you maybe some final thoughts about who's doing you a disservice in New Jersey media. And of course, when we talk about a disservice to New Jersey media, ladies and gentlemen, you know the usual suspects. It's always Insider NJ. And of course, when we talk about a disservice to journalism, hey, listen, there's always a lot to pick from at Insider NJ, but there's 2 people specifically that got on my radar this weekend peddling their usual nonsense. And of course, yours truly, your hero, because I'm the hero you need right now in New Jersey media. I'm here to debunk both of them. And of course, the nonsense that they continue to peddle all the time. And of course, when we talk about peddling nonsense, yes, ladies and gentlemen, look no further than Alan Steinberg. And Alan Steinberg had the audacity to publish a column this weekend, which I just had to just laugh. Talking about Bill Speedy, a friend of the show, a friend of mine. And of course, we all know that last week, Tucker Carlson and Fox News parted ways. The highest rated cable news host, without even a debate about it, decided to go their own ways. And I'm sure Tucker Carlson will continue making money. He'll continue having his own brand, and he'll do better than anybody else in primetime, which, again, he'll continue to be informative and educational and funny and entertaining. All the things that we all know that Alan Steinberg is not. But, of course, he talks about, Bill Speedy crossing even the Republican New Jersey red line. So, of course, Alan Steinberg, again, I'm sure watches this show. He doesn't watch it live because it's 6:44 on the East Coast, and we all know it's past Alan's bedtime. So I'm sure he'll watch the replay tomorrow. So, of course, he talks about, yesterday I received the following email message from Bill Speedy under the rubric of his, quote, Common Sense Club. Friend, the silencing and deplatforming of conservative voices in the United States continues on, which is true. Not that Alan Steinberg will ever have the integrity to tell you that, because, again, that would require Alan Steinberg to have integrity to begin with. Yesterday, Fox News ousted its top-rated host, Tucker Carlson, without providing any reasoning for the shocking move. Ironically, this announcement was made shortly after Tucker Carlson surpassed all their cable news shows in terms of ratings and viewers. That's true. While Alan Steinberg will watch CNN and MSNBC and plug them on his Twitter that nobody looks at, right? Tucker Carlson continues to rock the ratings, and he always did. So why would Fox News get rid of its most watched and best-rated host? It's because he spoke the truth, which is what he did. He talked about border security, which this joke of a president never addresses. The joke of a vice president that he put in charge of the border doesn't address it either, right? Or even the Department of Homeland Security. But you think Alan Steinberg would ever write a column about that? Of course not. He's too busy, with the pom-poms cheering for Joe Biden. You might as well just get him a skirt and a tutu and, call it a day. We know that speaking the truth and challenging the groupthink narrative makes people like Tucker Carlson a threat to the mainstream media's radical far-left agenda, which is true. Of course, Alan writes, Tucker Carlson spoke the truth. Speaking the extreme language of misogyny is speaking the truth, ? Well, By the way, Alan, he never did that. Now, again, if you want to go on about Abby Grossberg, one of these producers, which again, we have not yet to see what will come about of this lawsuit potentially. But we all know, for example, the Spadium, as it was given the same week that Tucker Carlson was exposed as using the C word in private messages. Yeah, Alan, because I'm sure you've never, ever used inappropriate language on messages, right? Oh, of course not. I'm sure you've never dropped the C-bomb, right? In your 90-something years of life, you've never dropped a C-bomb, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's about as believable as your New York Mets winning a World Series or your Brooklyn Nets winning an NBA Finals. Now, full disclosure, of course, this is Alan always likes to go, full disclosure. I've known Bill Spady his entire life. He is neither a racist nor a misogynist. He is also an outstanding family man who, outside the arena of politics, possesses an undeniable degree of personal decency. Here comes that but, because, of course, Alan Steinberg can never bestow compliments on anybody without the proverbial conjunction of but. Spady, however, is a person with atrociously poor political judgment. Why? Because he doesn't acquiesce to the woke nonsense that you do? Although not a racist or misogynist himself, he seems to have no filter or restraint in defending the most gender-bigoted behavior of any MAGA hero whose support he seeks. When it comes to political judgment, Bill Spady seems intent on validating the description of him by Chris Christie as a bonehead. In a gubernatorial general election or even a GOP primary, Bill Spady would be a total anathema to women voters, attracting at best 30%. Yes, because we all know that Alan Steinberg can definitely call elections correctly. We all know that's not true. He has crossed a clearly defined New Jersey red line. To use an Alan Steinberg metaphor, which, again, folks, if you want to lose brain cells, do that, but try not to. He now has as much of a chance of winning the GOP nomination for New Jersey governor as I have of being elected the mayor of Damascus. Oh, if someone would fly Alan Steinberg to Damascus and drop his old ass there, believe me, I would personally drive him to the airport and love to dump him there. But again, more on that later. So, of course, he talks about, although the MAGA crowd may have unrequited love for Tucker Carlson, they know that Spady has made a fatal and irreversible political faux pas. Well, that's not really true, Alan. Again, whether or not Bill Spady chooses to defend Tucker Carlson, I mean, again, that's his prerogative. And for someone that has consistently spoken the truth, like Tucker Carlson has, about the border, about the Chinese virus, about vaccines, everything that Tucker has talked about, folks, has come true. Now, people like Alan Steinberg don't want to admit that because that would require Alan Steinberg to admit that he was wrong, that a governor that he was cheerleading for here in New Jersey got COVID wrong, okay? That a bunch of other policies that Alan Steinberg tends to stand behind, those tend to be wrong too. Now, again, I haven't taken a personal stake in the upcoming gubernatorial race, but I know Bill Spady personally. I know Jack Ciarelli personally. Who else jumps in remains to be seen on the Republican side. Maybe it's John Bramnick. Maybe it's Michael Testa. Who knows? But the reality is, folks, that Republicans need to sort of get a unified message. The unified message is talking about how bad Democrats govern in Trenton, right? The upper echelon, and nationally. Are you doing better in your pocketbook? Of course not. Are you doing better with gas prices? Of course not. Is the border a disaster? Of course it is. Okay. Are we focusing more on pronouns than actually maybe worrying about China as a geopolitical threat? Of course. But you know what? You wouldn't hear that from Alan Steinberg. He's too busy, cheerleading for Joe Biden, which we all know has been a disaster of a president. Okay? He's been an outright disaster. And one of the reasons, aside from the many that I just named, why would we want to reelect a guy who's approaching 80, where who knows, there could be a multitude of different health issues that could affect an 80-year-old man, and then we're stuck with the laughing hyena that is Kamala Harris? Folks, anyone defending this ticket needs to seriously reevaluate their life. And again, I applaud Alan. His commitment to being delusional is, I'm telling you, it is to almost, cheer for. For someone to be that delusional and to be that committed to it, folks, again, you have to just appreciate that commitment. And for a guy in his mid to late 90s, right, to still be cheerleading these awful woke far left policies, I think is pretty disgraceful. But what else can you expect, folks? When it comes to being disgraceful and peddling nonsense, you can always rely on Alan Steinberg doing that, of course, at Insider NJ. And of course, when we talk about, Alan Steinberg's columns, which again continue to be the just outright peddling of nonsense on a regular basis, well, since we're talking about who else peddles nonsense on a regular basis in the state of New Jersey, yes, folks, of course, it still is at Insider NJ. And of course, it's the other hysteria monger at Insider NJ, and that's little Jay Lassiter. And Jay Lasser had this was really funny, to publish a column this week about Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman, quote, democracy demands a fair and ethical court. Of course, Jay Lasser talking about what's fair and ethical is really rich. I'm not going to read you this entire nonsense, but I'll just sort of give you the clip notes here about what makes this really, really funny. Representative Bonnie Watson Coleman today welcomed former Planned Parenthood President Cecile Richards to a press conference in Trenton to highlight the consequential right-wing rulings coming from the Supreme Court. What, to help Americans protect themselves with the Second Amendment? I mean, don't you believe in that, Jay? I get it. I know you're down in Cherry Hill, living off your husband's income, not really doing anything, and you're pretty much safe and secure in where you live in your little tight-knit community. But for the rest of New Jerseyans, if you don't live in a maybe safe area like you do, maybe protecting yourself isn't a bad thing. Of course, that's what the Supreme Court did. And again, preserving and reinforcing the Second Amendment for Americans to arm themselves and protect themselves. Not that you didn't know anything about that, because let's be honest, what do you really know about the Constitution, right? Or, of course, the Roe versus Wade decision, which, again, you continue bitching and moaning about since last June. With legal experts and issues advocates in tow, Representative Coleman also urged reform of America's jarringly swampy 9-member Supreme Court. Of course, today's presser is the latest stop in a nationwide, quote, just majority bus tour. I can't even say about Laffy Bo's just majority, whose slogan is democracy demands a fair and ethical court. The campaign is a coalition of reproductive rights, gun violence prevention, civil rights, and judicial reform groups calling for ethics reforms and Supreme Court expansion. See, folks, this is the problem here. And I'm not going to read you the rest of this nonsense because, again, if you need to fall asleep, you can always read Jay Lasser's columns whenever you want because, again, that's all he's good for. But it'd be funny if Jay Lasser would actually talk about what these fascist tyrants that he's trying to promote really stand for. And I wish that these people like Coleman and the former Planned Parenthood president will understand is that, especially regarding Roe, is that, you don't get to use words like ethical and fair and then stand with Planned Parenthood. Okay, Coleman, I hate to break it to you. The idea of you standing with someone like anyone from Planned Parenthood and appearing to push the narrative of what's ethical and fair is rich. But again, don't expect Jay Lasser to tell you that because he would rather virtue signal and bitch and moan about, oh my God, reproductive rights are under attack in New Jersey. No, they're not. They're as safe as they're anywhere. So again, if you're a woman that gets knocked up tomorrow, okay, you have in New Jersey pretty much up until the moment of birth to terminate your pregnancy. You have that freedom here. Okay. So for any ladies that over a drunken weekend, when you go out Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's a 4-day girls' night outing, and you wake up next to someone you don't like to wake up next to on Monday morning, and you're feeling kind of regretful, hey, you can go to Walgreens or CVS. You can buy a Plan B and be on your way. So the idea that reproductive rights are under attack in New Jersey is nonsense. But Jay Lasser will make you believe otherwise. Jay Lasser and the rest of the Lollipop Guild that follow him on social media would have you believe otherwise. That's not the case. Again, Jay, read the decision. All the Dobbs decision, did last summer was relegated to the states. And if the states want to govern abortion, that's their right. Again, Jay, you have to read the Bill of Rights. And I know you struggle with reading, right? Because you're too busy lighting up your bong every minute of the day. But if you read the 10th Amendment, you would know that that's federalism. It's states' rights. And if the state of Tennessee, the state of Arkansas, or other states want to regulate abortion as they see fit, do me a favor. Leave New Jersey, please. You would do us all a great favor. And go campaign down there. Go work with organizations down there. Try to change that legislature and try to flip it blue if that's so important to you. But here in New Jersey, when it's as blue as Windex, what are you bitching and moaning about? You sound like all these insufferable feminists and all these insufferable cat ladies that permeate on your social media feed, by the way. Okay? That's how whiny you sound. You sound like whiny little, you know what I'm going to say. Okay? I don't have to tell you. You know exactly what I'm going to say. All right? Jay, stop with the hysteria. You, again, and it's funny to me, a 90-something-year-old man like Alan Steinberg and a 70-something-year-old man like you should know better than to peddle this hysteria, to be the hysteria mongers that you continue to be. You should know better. You're a grown-ass man. You're in the third quarter of your life. And Alan Steinberg is pretty much in the last hours of his life, probably. Okay? You should know better than peddle this hysteria. All you're doing is, I don't know, just creating manufactured outrage. But that, again, that's what you're really good at. And so is Alan Steinberg. And of course, that's what's really good. And that's what really tends to sell at Insider NJ. Folks, I can't say enough, really. That's our show for this week. Once again, I do want to thank Nicholas Luciano, the executive director of Safeway Out, one of the preeminent nonprofit organizations in the state of New Jersey. I want to thank him for a very insightful conversation. And of course, folks, check out safewayout.org for everything that you need to learn about resources, helping men and women and victims of domestic violence, helping families. Please consider donating. It's a 501c3. Your online donation is safe and secure and tax deductible. And of course, folks, it goes a long way in helping families all throughout the state of New Jersey. And folks, before we call it a night, again, I want to remind everybody to, always support Jersey First TV. Like us on all of our social media platforms. Follow it on Instagram and Twitter, as well as following yours truly on Instagram and Twitter. Make sure you subscribe to Jersey First on YouTube. And of course, wherever you get your podcast, download them from Spotify or SoundCloud and take Jersey First TV with you everywhere that you go. And I can't say enough, folks, about the dream team of Garden State Media. Yes, it's Jersey First TV. Of course, Elizabeth Nader, the host of the Nader Narrative, with new episodes every Thursday. And of course, new episodes of Bridging the Gap with AJ Malilo and Stephen Rombolo every Thursday as well. And of course, you can check out brand new episodes of Real Talk every Monday night here live at 6 p.m. Eastern Time via StreamYard and also on the Jersey First YouTube page. And folks, before I call it a night, I just want to sort of send a reminder, because it seems like a lot of the haters online who like to sort of bash my brand of award-winning journalism. Yeah, while you're over there trying to produce somewhat good media, I'm over here just drinking tea because, you know what? While my traffic speaks for itself, I'm just over here laughing and just having some tea. That's what I tend to be doing every single week when I hear the chatter about what's wrong with my award-winning media brand. And speaking of my award-winning media brand, yes, folks, for the month of April, once again, I do want to thank, without a doubt, all of you that, again, continue to support Jersey First TV. 10,000, actually, as a matter of fact, 11,000 views and counting here on the program for April, again, amongst all the social media platforms. I cannot thank you enough for all of your support, for all of you tuning in live every Monday night, and of course, sharing the replays on all of your social media platforms. Again, folks, because of you, my loyal viewing audience, the greatness that you see here every Monday night continues to strive and succeed here on Jersey First TV. Folks, I cannot say enough about how much it means to me. And quite frankly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for supporting Real Talk with Jersey First TV. Happy May to everybody. Again, happy anniversary in advance to my parents this Thursday, celebrating 50 years of marriage. And of course, because of them, you get me every Monday night. So once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much here. Always check us out on our social media platforms. Of course, I can't say enough, folks. Without you, this show would not be successful. Shout out to all of you, my amazing audience that continue to create great traffic here. Again, folks, all organic, nothing boosted, solid journalism, great conversations, great topics with a great host. As well, as far as others in New Jersey media, yeah, not so much. So again, folks, we're not the same. It's greatness over here and mediocrity over there. Again, we're not the same. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching here. See you next week here, again, at 6 p.m. Eastern Time for the latest edition of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. So always remember, it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid. It's always Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 100 Latino via the Latino Spirit Online magazine, certainly the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media. Yes, the people's choice and the people's voice. Fernando, Uribe-May saying so long, folks. And as always, thank you so much for watching.